We're back.
There I was doing the worm.
The macaroni cap.
Off the ground.
That's a groovier version.
We said season 2. We're going to step it up with the production.
So magnetic on the ground.
It's like the SpongeBob episode with the Krusty Krab pizza, how he sings it in multiple.
There was a lady, she was doing the wow.
It is not a secret that you can sing.
That's singing to you?
That's what we've been waiting for
That's
all
a wrap.
along.
So all I had to do was sing to you guys to get you back on the show? That's what I had to do?
I feel like you sacrificed a little bit more than that, but...
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about it really quick, and then we can do an episode.
Okay.
I feel like when I had you guys on the phone, which thanks for answering the call anyway, but I feel like we kind of got disconnected at the end, and you didn't really hear like what I was saying to you guys. I shared some stuff, but I maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't, but I didn't hear any responses. So, I mean, just in case, I have you guys here now. We're about to make another season, and I just want to say that, like, I just really miss doing this with you guys. You know, I miss all three of us sitting at this table. We got our flowers. They've bloomed maybe even clearer and brighter than season 1.
They are blooming.
They have grown even more. And I don't know. I'm just excited. I kind of just missed doing the show. So I'm like really, really excited to like do this again with you guys.
Honestly,
same.
Season 2 theme song. It's the same as the first season. Not changing it. You're not getting that. Look at season 2. Season 2. Season 2. Honestly, same.
Ooh, honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same. Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Season 2. We always go to the same melody every time, and I don't really know why.
Maybe
Hello.
that should be our theme.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
You're seeing it.
Season 2 is here.
You are correct. Your eyes are not deceiving you. We're back.
Or
I
your
know it's hard to
ears.
believe. I know
Or your ears.
for Ross to get Leah and I back at this table took some effort.
I had to do a lot of work.
We know.
I had to go through a lot to get them, but I did it for you people, but mostly me first, always. I did it for me, absolutely. Well, this is season 2, and of course, we've got new topics for a new season. So guys, what is our...
Who are you?
It hasn't been that long since we've seen each other, but...
Brittany, that's Russ.
Right.
Brodney
Come on.
and Leanne.
Yeah. And Russ.
Come on, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of the show.
You know.
Brodney, Leanne, and Ross. But in case you actually don't know who we are, I'm Ross.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Leah.
Close to those names that we just told you. And this, yes, it's honestly same. You know what you tapped on. You know why you're here. But what subject are we giving the people for the very first episode of season 2 of Honestly Same? What are we talking about? What are we doing?
Today we're going to discuss the millennial problem. And not that millennials are the problem, but what the problem is that millennials are experiencing.
If you did misread the title, no, this is not a Star Wars podcast about the Millennium Falcon problem. This is the millennial problem.
Yeah.
We are going to be talking about human beings and no wars happening in space or the stars.
Not that we're aware
I'm so
of.
sorry.
There might
We're aware
be. There's probably a new season of something coming out as far as like, yeah, there's probably some kind of Star Wars thing happening.
Also that,
behind the scenes.
If you want the Star Wars episode,
You can talk to me about Star Wars. I'll talk to you
you
about Star
could
Wars
talk
all day.
to Leanne about
Yes.
Star Wars at any point in time.
People are just going to start calling us the wrong things because we...
If
They
they mess
really
up
are.
my name, I'm done.
Yeah,
If they
say
should.
actually are
yeah, if they
like-
do say Brodney, that's
like botany, like
Yeah.
the study of botany.
so you're
something.
You're a botanist, right?
Correct.
I mean, you guys did do a lot of stuff in between seasons, so I wouldn't
So did you.
put it
Yeah.
past you. I did do a lot of things. Went on a lot of dates, got a lot of paparazzi chasing me,
Yeah.
a lot of fun nights alone at my apartment. But I mean, no one was around to see that, so
Right.
we don't have to talk about that. That's fine.
We were there. We saw it.
Oh, you're
We were there.
Were you? I didn't think we talked for months, if not years.
Yeah, who could ever say how much time's been between season 1 and season 2? But we're back.
We are back.
We're here to talk about the millennial problem.
So what is exactly the quote unquote millennial problem? I know how I like perceive it, and because none of us are really saying there's an actual problem. Leah, you just said that. Like it's not like an actual like, oh, there's an issues with millennial. Like that is not what this show is. But
all the boomers are like, damn it.
like, yeah, I'm turning it off. But I think it's more so like what is being labeled, or what sort of millennial things are being made to almost exist as problems or issues that we have to deal with or face or whatever. Because I know we're going to dive into all of it, but like our lives, our generation is also very different than other generations. So there's a lot of like societal standards that are put on a lot of us. And also like rather than like the umbrella, which I know we'll get into, more so like I'd love to start this one off like specifically what we would deem each of our like problems that we're having being a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Well, why don't you go first then, since you already kind of have the floor.
Yes.
And talk about what you consider like your specific like personal millennial problems that you're experiencing.
So I think for me, so this year I turned 30, the big 3-0. You're supposed to be fully an adult, which is already one of the of like what exactly is an adult, which we actually talked about. Was that season 1, episode 1? Actually, yeah.
Sure was.
Okay, all right.
Wow, bring it right back around.
We're bringing things full circle. But the idea of like even what adulting really is and all that sort of stuff. But more so like for me, where I identify it is like I have this really weird imbalance where like half of me is technically a really, really, really disciplined adult. Because I have worked for things in my life and I have found full autonomy over my life. I'm in control of every decision I make. I wake up when I want. I go to sleep when I want. I do what I want through every day. If I want to be super busy or not busy at all, I get to decide that. I've worked to become self-employed. That, in a way, is that. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of work. You got to make those things work somehow. On the flip side of that, though, because I live such a, what I would maybe just for this conversation label an abnormal life, it makes me feel like I am not a proper adult. Because I can stay up as late as I want. I can wake up whenever I want. I can, again, fill my day with like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm just going to talk to 6 people for 19 hours until I decide to go to sleep and meetings and all this sort of stuff. Like, I can do those things. And that feels very unadult, even though all of those things usually have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
But it also, and I know we're going to dive deeper into this a little bit further in the episode, but it also, like, for me, it's comparing to other people my age and maybe how they have met some of those quote unquote adult things, those millennial things of seeing friends who like own a home or have kids or whatever. And not necessarily like the last handful of years of my life, I wasn't chasing those things. So I can't on one hand beat myself up for not having those. That's not what I was trying to achieve. But now that I achieved other things, I'm identifying that I want those other things for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sitting and identifying that as a 30-year-old, I'm like, I'm supposed to have, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? So like for me, there's like this weird, like, I know that I'm very disciplined and I'm very like, I don't know. I know, I'm confident in those ways of like, oh yeah, I have like a pretty solid life and I control a lot of aspects of it. But then I look at those quote unquote things, the millennial issues, the things that we're supposed to do as an adult, and I see other people experiencing them and I'm like, oh, I'm missing out. I'm wrong in the way that I'm living my life.
Because like societal norms.
Yes. It would, like, it says like, oh, well, you're 30 and why aren't you married? Or like, why don't you even have a girlfriend? Or why do you not have a kid? Or why are you not even thinking about buying a house? Which is, that, I mean, that's a problem for literally everybody right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's looking at those things and just sort of like having this weird inner battle, which is why I even wanted to talk about this in the season. Is like that for me over the last handful of months has genuinely been a big inner battle that I've been having where I'm like happy about how my life is, but also really actually very unhappy about certain aspects of it.
Yeah.
That spawn from, well, as a person your age, you're supposed to have these things and you don't.
Do you have people in your life that are telling you things? Like, do you have pressure coming from family or anywhere else where it feels like people are thinking like, hey, like, like, I know for me personally, obviously we'll get into my side when I start talking about my issues as well. But I think that what I experience is like, I have parents that are like, so you just don't have health insurance, huh? Like, do you have any of those like pressures coming from outside places, or
You know
is it
what's
something
weird?
you're doing to yourself?
It's me doing it to myself.
Okay.
No one. Maybe when I was like 25 or something, there was
Yeah.
like some parents being like, "So like, when you having a kid?" Like, and I'm like, "I'm trying to film videos."
I'm a kid.
Yeah, I'm still a kid.
I'm making music videos.
Yeah, right. Thank God we got past that phase. But yeah, that's the weird thing is there's no one who's
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh man, you don't have this," or "Why don't you have?" It's literally just me doing it to myself. Because I also think that's probably a part of like growing up, and you know your wants and needs change, and I'm identifying those things. But I almost feel like I'm so out of the norm that I'm like,
It
how do
also
you
sounds
even?
like you think you're like running out of time,
Yeah.
or like you have to like it has to be accomplished like right now.
Which is weird because I don't look at a lot of things like
Yeah.
that. But the whole theme of this episode, though, that millennial problem that we
Yeah.
face is like those
That's-
societal norms are
Yeah.
shoved in your face at all times where it's like, I might not even believe that.
Yeah.
But I
It's-
feel that.
It's
Yeah, it's
definitely,
just
I think, a millennial struggle. And not to say
internally-
that other like generations might not have experienced similar things. I think everybody probably can relate to that. Like, when do I feel like I've accomplished enough things that make me feel like a real adult? But I think that because of our specific generation and like where we fall and like just world events that have happened, like with where like that lined up, you know, like COVID and things that lined up with our transition to like real adulthood, that made it a little bit like less traditional even than, you know, different generations before us. And maybe it will
Yeah.
continue to even like break down further and further as generations are to come. But like, yeah, right now it definitely feels like there's just like this whole group of us right now that are like, wait, is there still somebody that's going to
Right.
help me through this? Because I feel like I'm not ready to like be doing this on my own.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Okay, so what does that look like for you guys?
Go ahead,
Like
Leah.
when you think of like what a millennial problem is to you, what does it look like in your life?
So for me specifically, a lot of my issue with like being at this point in my life as a millennial is that I do feel like I do have like, and obviously it's all out of love, I have parents that are concerned for my well-being as far as you don't have health insurance, like you don't have the type of job that might be able to support you through things like, you know, like if you had a health emergency or something, you don't have like a PTO where if you have to take time off for something, let's say I decided I want to have a child, like I don't have a maternity leave. I don't have things that the traditional like person my age, I guess, supposedly should have to make it a comfortable like life to live. So for me, a lot of it is about the stability aspect of it. I think that there are like two parts of my life, and I think that there's the very, you know, deep creative part of me that wants to do a million things, specifically musically. I think for a long time that was something that I was very engulfed in. And, you know, it's funny because I feel like there's these people in my life and people will be like, we're rooting for you. We want you to do this. Like, don't ever stop with music. But then also like, but when are you gonna like get your shit together kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. You can't pour into like 10 cups.
Yes. And so I think it's, again, same thing where it's almost an imbalance where I feel like finding the balance of, you know, where we as a generation are. You know, I actually listened to a podcast, it's called Speaking of Psychology, and they did a study of like the gap as far as, you know, we have our parents' generation. I think all of us can relate to a parent or an older like figure in our life going, well, when I was your age, I walked, you know, to school in the snow.
15 miles in
Yes.
the snow.
Yes, uphill. And, you know, we can all say like, yes, we've all had somebody in our lives that said, well, when I was your age, I was doing this. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting from this episode, and I can't, of course, remember the name of it, it's escaping me at this moment, but the episode of Speaking of Psychology, they said that there is a gap of about 5 years from our parents' generation. So people that are more so in like the baby boomer generation, where they were at 30 is more so where we will be at 35.
That makes sense.
And for
Okay.
the better,
Yeah. Oh, and I
may
think
I
that
add.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think that there is like this huge like thing that nobody talks about of our grandparents and our parents even getting married at 21, 22, having kids by 25, and then like, you know, working themselves until retirement and then moving to Florida and, you know, dying. I think that's just been like the human life cycle, at least in Ohio. That's like what you do. And I think that we are sort of kind of breaking that cycle in a way. And so people are almost looking at us as like, well, you're not working hard enough, or you're not doing things the way we did them. And I think that I don't necessarily think that's a problem, but I think
Yeah.
that other people look at it as so different that they think it couldn't possibly work.
And it's kind of
Yeah.
the whole thing where like again, like I walked however many miles to school or whatever.
Yeah.
My life doesn't have to be hard because you had a hard life. Like the whole point of this whole thing
Absolutely.
is to find an easier route and to not do the things that are like not necessary, because we have all realized that we don't have to like work for the man. Like we are all here for ourselves. And I think that got lost with like the previous generations.
Absolutely. I think that a big part of it is, the comparison of like money is a huge thing. I'm like, you guys had dime stores. Like even the dollar store is not actually a dollar at this point anymore. Like the inflation of everything has just absolutely devastated us as a generation. So we aren't buying houses and having kids as early as, you know, the people in generations before us, because we can't afford
Yeah.
to do that as easily. And a lot of people are, and they're finding ways to make it work. But there is a considerable difference in the amount of stress that you have if you're a homeowner versus somebody that's not a homeowner, or if you're a parent versus not a parent. There's really big things that like in our lives we've sort of either decided we're not doing them because it's just not going to work for us and who we are and what we're trying to accomplish or do or who we're trying to be, versus the just traditional route of life, I guess.
We stopped doing like things just because we thought we were supposed to do them. Like mindlessly. We still have like this societal thing in the back of our head where it's like, man, why don't I have that yet? But you're not like blindly going to get this thing because you want it. Like you know better than that.
Right. Exactly.
I remember thinking, I just won't have debt. I just won't like have bills. Like I remember being younger and being like, why do people
what
even
a
just,
time.
you have to have a car to get to work so that you can work for the rest of your life to pay bills so you can continue to work. Like it just becomes a cycle that nobody can really avoid.
Yeah.
Right. So, Brittany,
Yes.
what does it look like for you? Because, I mean, you've got a slightly different lifestyle.
Yeah.
We've talked about it in season 1. You're maybe the most adult out of all of us at the table, according to those societal
Yes.
standards. But what does that really look like for you? And how does it feel?
I agree with everything you said. I mean, both of you, but like you really explained like the millennial problem and talked on a lot of the stuff that like I would now have to deal with and make sure that I don't program into my children. That's like the main thing for me is making sure that, because I know better with all of the things, I don't get too much into the pressure of like what I don't have. Like I don't care if anyone looks at me and goes, she doesn't have a job. She's like one of those, you know what I mean? Because I do. I stay home with my babies. Not everyone looks at that as a full-time job, but those are the things like I don't really care how I'm perceived from the outside, but I really, really care about how my children grow up and preventing this stress on them.
Yeah.
More so than like how it really affects me. It affects me because I have to make sure that those specific things like the inflation and things like that doesn't affect them. And then I have to go, okay, let me make sure that I don't scare tactic them into getting into a situation that I feel like I could, you know, our parents always think that they're telling us stuff to make sure that we have it better than them. But like that also scares us. Like, why don't you have health insurance?
Yes,
But you're doing what you
absolutely.
love, but your parents just want you to be able to go, but they don't
Exactly.
realize what you would be giving up in order to get that. Like it's never, let's fix the government and healthcare. It's get a new job, leave what you
Right.
love doing, just get a new job. Like that's that easy because you have to have healthcare. So just really making sure that like normalizing the stuff that is normal and like talking about and validating the other things. That way no one's getting like lost in it and having those things in the back of their head, because those are so annoying.
Oh, absolutely.
Something that you said in there of like the idea of I don't care how I'm like perceived, and like, okay, cool, I can just like do my own thing and it doesn't matter what somebody else believes I should be doing or something. It's like, that's what's weird is because I'm settling into that mindset based off of like for years I wasn't doing things for the perception of people being like, wow, he's so cool and creative, but that was definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, of course. Where now I'm hitting such a strange time where like I genuinely for the first time in like my life journey in general can like genuinely say I don't care how things I do are perceived. Like, I don't care if something goes viral. I don't care if something gets a bunch of likes. I don't care if somebody thinks it's cool or not. I genuinely am doing it out of just pure enjoyment. Did I like doing it?
Yes.
Was it a cool experience? Did I make something cool? And do I like sharing those things on platforms like social media? Of course. But what I feel like is kicking off my imbalance through that comparison even more is like, I am for the first time focusing more on like, wait, maybe just like actually having like a place that I live and not an apartment that I'm going to at some point move out of and move into another one. Maybe just having a place to live where I can do kind of whatever I wanted with would be dope. And of course that comes with like, well, you got to fucking maintenance it yourself and blah, blah, blah. But like in the same way that like even having children, and we talked about this probably a little bit in like the parenthood episode last season. But it's like for years, I like wasn't really sure if I actually wanted a kid or not. I like, there would be times where I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool. And there's other times where I'm like, dude, hell no, like absolutely not. I'm chill if that never happens. And now because of all of these sort of things, like I literally feel like when I turned 30, my brain switched a little bit where it was like, hey, we don't care about some of this stuff as much anymore. We kind of care about this.
Yeah.
And like having a kid is like now one of those things where I can't say I'm like, I gotta have one. Oh my God. But I'm like, no, yeah, I do want a kid.
Yeah.
Like enough to where, and I don't mean this in like an over dramatic negative way, but like I've literally thought about it in my head where I'm like, if I never, this is going to sound so dramatic and I don't mean it to sound this way, but if I don't ever find like a partner that's like, cool, this is solidified, this is going to be like girlfriend, wife, and baby mama, great. I literally have been like, I feel like maybe I want a kid bad enough that maybe I would adopt at some point.
Yeah.
Like
That's not dramatic at all.
No.
You really want something and you're not trying to settle to get it.
Right.
That's
and so it's like it's all of those things from that comparison side of things where like I'm not comparing. It's weird that like my comparison went from like, is that person successful doing what they like to do? That is now not the thing I'm comparing anymore because I achieved that in ways. Of course, there's plenty that I'm still chasing.
You have the fulfillment that you were chasing in that aspect.
I'm fulfilled in that aspect.
But now it's like you're looking for the fulfillment of like the traditional things that you never thought that you would care about.
It is. It's the millennial thing. It's the like normal society things that like I tried so hard to go against that now I'm not saying I was wrong and now I want all of them, but now I found myself in a quote unquote like comfortable enough position that I can identify how and why I want those things.
Yeah.
Why would I actually just want an actual house to live in? What would I do with it? Why would I actually want it? Because I've talked to plenty of friends who are like, dude, I kind of wish I could just rent again because owning a house fucking blows. And I'm like, okay, like if I did have a house, would I feel prepared? Would I understand? Same thing with a kid. Like right now at my age, my parents had like a 6, 7, 8-year-old, something like that. Maybe a little bit younger. I might be overselling it, but like, they would have a near 10-year-old right now. And I'm like, and I think about that. I'm like, dude, no, my life would look completely different. But I also am identifying like I did all the work on these other aspects of life that I feel so much more comfortable welcoming in those normal society things. But again, because I worked so hard to be different, I personally feel it's harder for me to get back to those things.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's like
because everyone else was kind of chugging along, doing a little bit of both,
and sort of like more naturally on that path of like, oh yeah, now I've got my partner that I'm probably going to spend my life with, and oh hey, it happened to work out, and okay, cool, now we're having a baby, and you know what? We bought a house too. It's like while that was happening, I was like staying up till 3 a.m. editing a short film, and like there's nothing good or bad about either of those sides.
Right?
Yes.
For me, that was just like the path where now I'm like and again, not like trying to oversell it, but like literally if like all my creative endeavors ceased to exist tomorrow and I had to live a normal life, I oddly would be so comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because like I found out who I am, who I want to be, and I'm like, cool, I can take that and shape it into anything I do in life now. To where if I had to go be a fucking gym teacher or something, I don't know, like I'm not downplaying gym teachers, but I'm just saying a completely different life. I'd be like, oh, I know what I would find valuable
Yeah.
out of that. I feel like I'm on a whole side tangent now.
No,
it
not at
still
all.
totally fits.
Yeah, and actually, in fact, I was gonna say, I think that that you saying like, oh, okay, like if I was just thrown into like a completely different thing right now, like I think a lot of our 20s is like chasing the dream. Like we
Yeah.
have something, everybody has something that they want to achieve or something that they want to do. And I think that eventually you get to a point where you take it to a point where you think, once you've gotten to the point where you're like, I've done everything I can do with this to a point where I'm satisfied with what I have achieved, and now I'm ready for whatever else the world has to offer. I don't have, like, music was the thing that I pursued, and now I'm like, cool, I did that, and now I'm ready to kind of go into the, like, everyday life, like, thing. Like, I have become in some ways jaded, but in other ways, like, I've learned to be content with the fact that my life is not meant to be completely extraordinary, and that I can find fulfillment and extraordinary happiness in the things
Yes.
around me
Yeah.
without it having to be fame and fortune and, you know, I'm
100%.
some kind of like star and people know who I am and know my music or whatever. Nowadays, if I have music that I want to put out into the world, I don't even care if anybody hears it. I just want to create something
Yeah.
so that I have my creative outlet, put it out into the world, and then go back to what I'm doing. Like,
Right.
it's weird because it used to be everything, and
I
now
think
it's
a lot
shifting.
of us have moved on from like wanting public validation because we all know it's coming from people that are like equally as flawed as us or lacking something or have more of something, but it's not like there's no like balancing those scales of public validation in
Right,
that way.
right.
So once you get that feeling like towards yourself for yourself, it can't be replicated anymore by like what people like give you.
Yeah.
Unless it's like your genuine loved ones, of course, but then you don't really need to like go searching for it anymore. And that's been nice. I think we've all kind of gotten to that point.
Right.
So, okay, so like I talked a little bit about like that, how I see the comparisons of like I'm looking at friends who are like, oh, they've got a house, or they've got kids, or they're just like madly in love and married or whatever it is. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Even though it's not wrong, that's how it feels. What do you feel like? Like, did you already touch on like, do you feel like you guys have shared your comparisons or
A
like how
little
you deal
bit.
with the comparison?
I think for me the biggest thing is this like structured sort of like security of having a career that allows me to just be like a human being. Like not having the health insurance is probably one of my biggest things. Not having the ability to, like, I don't work for somebody else. You know, I work for myself. So I'm the one that has to do my own taxes. I'm the
Yeah.
one that has to do those types of things. And I think that, like, comparing myself to other people who, like, maybe I, you know, went to school with or something, and I'll look and be like, wow, that person literally has their master's. They have, you know, maybe some big, beautiful house that they've filled with kids, and, you know, it seems like they're achieving happiness in a way that I don't have it. But again, plenty of people probably look at my situation where they're like, wow, you don't have kids that you have to like find somebody to take care of if you want to go do something. Like,
I get that all that like that.
yeah,
That is the thing.
I don't
where
have the
yeah,
high,
like,
you know, mortgage. I don't have the job where it's like I'm answering to some person, you know, in a cubicle that's yelling at me every day, and I absolutely like can't stand what I
Yeah.
do. Like,
Exactly.
And so there is comparison in a lot of ways where it's the structure and the stability that I crave in some ways, but I don't think it outweighs like my desire to be able to kind of call the shots for myself.
Yeah.
100%. What does it look like
So-
for you, B?
Well, it's tough because I don't get like jealous of what people have that I don't have. I tend to see through seeing enough people for like who they really are, the people that have all of these things. Either it's not all really what it's, cracked up to be. The people with the big houses and the beautiful families go through secret divorces and have scandals, and or their partner is not really there for them or whatever. And I just feel like nothing is ever black and white, and I have found a way, even though life is just overwhelming, doing all of the adult things all of the time, really found a way to just like enjoy like what I have. But the problem, I think the only other thing would be kind of the jadedness of, I never am like, my friends don't understand that I have kids or anything like that. But I feel bad that I can't give to people the same way that like they can and want to give to me. And then I feel like we've talked about this on another episode too. You give someone here, you have to take from somewhere else.
Yes.
And so I feel like I don't know how there's enough hours in the day for anyone, especially when kids are in the picture. I don't know how it's possible. And I just feel like a big millennial problem is people don't want to talk about that. Or if moms do, then they're shamed. So then you're kind of like sat back. And if you are complaining about your kids, then there's something wrong with you and not the fact that we've like all lost villages. The amount of people that are like, yeah, I was at my grandparents every weekend, or my favorite aunt picks me up, once a month or whatever. That is just not how, for me, life has worked when being a parent. So it's tough because society makes you think that's going to be how it is. Like your parents are going to be so excited about your kid and everything. And then turns out your parents are still humans with all of these obligations. And now you just have this shiny new baby and no like help unless it's going to fill their cup and it's going to benefit them. And that's not always how it is. It's not even always how it is for me, but it's something that is like kind of, you never want to call your family out because it's not anyone else's, situation to take care of your kid, but there's no way to ask for help because if you ask for help, then people go, oh, I was right here the whole time.
It makes you feel like you're weak in some way because you have to reach out to people. And then, they almost make you feel guilty as if they haven't been trying to spend time with you or something.
If you have a breakdown, then it's, why didn't you reach out? And then if you reach out, then it's, well, let me check my schedule because I have X, Y, and Z.
Dude, that I will 100% say, like, again, the whole like millennial problem, like becoming an adult, all that sort of stuff, like that is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Is there are just like countless people, because like, and not to add a whole like side thing to this episode, but like, friendships as an adult is another thing that like we identify how those change and take form. And
we will
that's a big
actually
thing.
have an entire episode about adult friendships.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will dig like way deeper into that, but it absolutely plays a part into this whole thing because it's exactly what you're saying, Brittany, of like, yeah, like you get the classic, like, hit me up whenever, I'm so down, I want to hang out. And then when you're like, hey, cool, here's me extending the effort. It's like, oh, I don't know. I have to like sit on my couch tonight and like be bummed about my day. And like, I'm not saying anything about that, but like, do what you got to do. But when it's those answers every single time, it's like, wait, what is this friendship taking form until they get something or need something out of it? But then, like you said, when you don't reach out, it's like, I haven't heard from you in months.
Yeah. It's a two-way street.
It is. And like, that is another like weird aspect to this whole like millennial growing up. Like, we are adults, but we don't feel like adults. We want to hang out with our friends, but we are busy enough where we need to balance our lives out in proper ways. But also, it's just it's a really messy two-way street of like everyone trying to drive these like super broken cars that they're trying to keep together.
Yeah. Do you think that it is because, I'm just wondering what the difference is between like the generation before us, like pre-social media, like we don't really have to miss each other because we're always like kind of connected. So people take for granted the like actual time spent together.
I feel like that's got to be a part of it.
Because I feel like, I mean, maybe, when we were younger and it was someone calling your house phone, that's like the connection you got for the day. That's your like catch up with whoever. And now, you get that connection all day. So I feel like people don't know how to balance that.
Like
so they burn themselves
enough,
out.
or they don't think it's enough.
Yeah.
Like they think that's like, oh, all you have to do is hit like or like comment something and it doesn't feel like enough. Like you're not giving enough to them. Or they're the kind of people where they're like, oh, like, as long as I'm hearing from you, that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, because I can go like 4 or 5 months without seeing like a certain, group of friends. but I don't feel like I've missed anything because I've seen their whole like life online, and I don't know if that's normal to be like, yeah, I'll see them when I see them because I see them all the time.
Well, I think that is a new normal thing that our brains don't necessarily know how to like make use of, because we get the fill of like, we're seeing them, we saw them post a picture. We talked about this either in social media episode last season or something about like, oh, tossing a like and a comment sometimes is a way to keep connected with somebody. And it's like, that is a new way of keeping connected with somebody. But it also like, it sort of just, I think, tricks your brain into, oh, we have connected. When you're not fulfilling that, because like I can openly say, I know people who I will go months without seeing them. And then when we see each other, they make it this big, like, oh man, I haven't seen you in forever. What the hell, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, do you think that maybe you're allowing your like social bar to be filled by only social media, basically? Right. And we're forgetting that like, because we get that quick fix, we think we've connected with people, but we are pushing it in the back of our brains. Like, no, we still are like community driven creatures realistically, even though if you want to battle that you're the biggest introvert in the world, guess what would probably help? Being around some people that care about you.
Talking to me?
Am I talking to you? I don't think
a little bit.
I don't.
If you're triggered, it just means that you have work to do. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if it's your fault, sweetie.
If the shoe fits.
Put it on and wear it to my house and hang out with me, and it'll solve your problems. But like, I do think that there is something to what you're saying of like that. Like it's a quick fix that we haven't identified that isn't an actual fix.
Yeah. And I almost, again, it's so new. I don't even fault anyone for falling into that.
No, it's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I do think that like there is sort of like this implication where if you're the one that has kids that you're supposed to reach out when you have time for some reason. Like, oh, well, you have a busier schedule than me, so you figure it out.
Okay, I would love to say this right now. I don't know if this is the episode, but putting the mental load on other people and saying like, and this is not for moms, this is for anybody. You tell me when you have time, or like you pick the restaurant, or you do this, is so unhelpful in some capacities. Specifically for me as a mom, if I'm like, okay, I think we can hang out Tuesday, and you're like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Whatever. My brain is going to like fry. Like I need the support that I need is to be like, okay, does X, Y, and Z sound good?
Yes.
Because then I know I just have to show up there and like have a good time, and I don't have to orchestrate all of this in my brain because I'm already doing the grocery list, the diapers, the laundry, the meals for the day.
Yep.
And nothing I just said is for me.
Right.
So then when you're like, okay, so yeah, like where do you want to eat? I have no clue. I haven't eaten in 2 days.
Yeah,
I
haven't even
know.
thought about my favorite food lately.
Yeah. So I definitely think that's something that people can consider. And I think it's a millennial thing that we always want to be like, oh, it's no big deal. It's whatever you want. But that's not always like the most helpful answer. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about community, just being like, hey, if you're free on either of these days and want to do X, Y, and Z, I would love to make this happen. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think that would help a lot of people. Because I think a lot of people, at least for me, I just get stuck where I'm like, the options are too vast for me to like concrete something right now.
I'm not perfect at it. I've tried to get better at that.
I think you're great at that.
In general,
no, you definitely will be like, hey, do you want to go do this thing on this day?
Yeah, because I feel like that has even come from like my career world of I'm like, wow, when I give people options, they sort of just don't do it or fuck it up or something. And not that that's the same in friendships.
No,
but
yeah.
I have learned literally just like give people the least amount of options possible, narrow it down so it's an easier decision for that person to make. And I'm not saying it's always going to work that way. And you know, someone could be like, what about option D that you didn't mention? I want to go do that instead. Okay, great. Now I know that you actually want to do that because you offered it to me. But yeah, when you leave it up to other people a lot of the times, they're maybe just too stressed to decide.
And that's the thing is like, don't reach out to me and ask if I want to hang out with you and make plans, but then expect me to be the one that comes along and tells you what I want to do.
Right.
Dude, something I have tried to do because we all hate it when you get that text and someone's like, what are you doing Friday? Well, my answer depends on what you're about to ask me.
Yeah.
I try to go past that. Like whenever I'm like being specific like that, I will text everything in one text. I'm like, hey, what are you doing on Friday? I'm asking because this is the thing I'm asking you about.
Yeah.
Are you free for that? Yes or no?
I literally
Like-
just texted you the other day and I was like, what are you doing on Sunday? And then I left you on red for like the whole day because I had clients like out, the wazoo. And then I literally was like, I'm so sorry because it ended up that I was like, just kidding. I completely forgot that I can't even do anything
like, hey,
on
I
Sunday.
forgot I'm not free Sunday anyway, so
Yeah.
never mind. Yeah,
So-
but like that is a part of it. It's like whether that person is stressed about making a situation or they're just going about their daily lives and like, dude, if you want to hang out, you tell me and I'm
Right.
there.
I'm just,
Like,
yeah,
great.
we're all just moving so quickly. Like, I have a hard time focusing. So if I get a text and it's like, hey, what's your schedule like? I am not going to be able to, in this moment, give you
Like
that.
when?
But
Yeah,
if
if
you're
you
like,
tell me, like-
hey, Friday, I would love to
Yeah.
do this. Are you free? You're going to get a response a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
So, like we've talked a ton about like the comparison game and what we feel like
Yeah.
the societal standards are and all that sort of stuff. I'd love to lean into like how we all, and we've touched on a little bit of this, but I'd like to like really dive into like how do we each cope with these things? How do we each kind of like find whatever balance we can in the imbalances that we're feeling? Kind of how we've been talking about, of like, oh, when I communicate with somebody, I'm going to try and just be clear and direct because yes, Friday might be your only day off. And now I'm backing you into a corner saying, what are you doing Friday? I don't know, man. My plan was to fucking relax.
Right.
Do you want to come relax with me? Because my answer is I'm free and I'm willing to hang. If you're asking me to go on a 19-day adventure to find the fucking lost city of Atlantis, I might be down for that, but it's going to take a lot of energy.
Also, yes.
And I gotta think about that. And so, like, I think I'd love to kind of like dig deeper into those things. Like, what do we each feel like we do in our own little bubbles, in our own
Yeah.
little worlds that, of course, somebody could relate to maybe, and it helps them. But like, what do you feel like you do to kind of navigate against those society standards that we
Yeah.
feel like we're missing out on? Maybe.
I think as a millennial, it helps me to communicate with other millennials and with people that are in other generations about the differences that we all face, because sometimes it feels like I'm putting all of that weight on myself and I'm just going, oh, this is just how things are now. But I think that having conversations with people where it's like, oh, well, my mom had me at this age, and so, it's okay if you aren't having kids yet. Like those types of conversations. I actually was just at a family thing yesterday, and of course everybody's like, so what are you guys thinking? You think you might do it? You think you might not? Whatever. And my cousins who are in their 40s are like, our oldest kids are turning 18 this coming year. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it's wild to think about, like, at their, like, in their generation at this point in their lives, like what they had and what they didn't. So like looking and having those conversations where they go, so are you thinking about it? And I'm kind of like, I still haven't landed on anything yet, and here's why. And they go, you have so much time. And hearing that from people that are further along in their lives means so much.
Yeah.
And to talk to people who are younger than us, even, who I can then say, you have so much time, because I know it to be true. The people who are older than us know it to be true. And to be able to pass that comfort on, I think helps me a lot. And then to look at other millennials and talk to other millennials about, this is how I feel like everybody is like trying to buy houses right now is so crazy with the inflation and everything. And people just go, oh my gosh, I know. This
Yeah.
is what's happening with my friend. This is what's happening in my life. These are my experiences. And then it helps you realize that, like, the whole, like, I don't know, even if it's like a generational struggle, it literally is different person to person.
Yep.
And regardless of what generation you really fall into, everybody experiences a different form of that struggle at some point in their life.
Right. Right.
So I think that it helps to literally just think about it in that way of, like, not everything is so black and white. There's just everything pretty much in the world. Every single person's so different that the entire world is kind of a gray area.
Yes.
and
so
everyone's winging it.
Yes.
Everyone.
And that's the most important thing that, like, keeps me sane is, like, you know what? That's okay. There are people out there who are struggling the same way as I am. There are people that are struggling more than I am that I could help potentially. And there are people that aren't struggling as much as I am who might be able to help me. Like, there's always going to be a resource that you can pull from somewhere that will help you get through those things.
Yeah.
My little bubble coping mechanism is to just one, let go of the whole grass is greener thing, and just we've already talked about it. Like, there's flaws in every human, in every relationship, and no matter what we're seeing, which is where any comparison's coming from. If we're all locked in our houses in our own little bubble, we don't have anything to compare it to. But I just love, we talked about this, I think, off the podcast, but like reverting back to like my childhood tendencies that I love. And because those things are there to stay, inflation's not taking away like the music that I love and the movies that I love and stuff. And we literally, I know this is so cliche, but like we only do this one time. And like I said earlier, I don't care how I'm perceived. I could die tomorrow, and I really don't want like my last like worry to be, how I'm going to afford another car payment. Yes, I have to think about that.
Absolutely.
But in a survival way, not in a I need a better car because X, Y, and Z has a better car or whatever. Like, I'm super content with the life that I have created with like my friends and my family, and I feel like I've won the lottery most days. I have lots of, mental illness is bigger now. Everyone talks about it. Medication, things like that, health things happening within family. But like at the end of the day, the position I'm in when I go to bed, I like could not ask for like a better life. So because of that, and I'm lacking a car for myself and a job and a village for my children and a good school system and all of these things, but I still like at the end of the day know I'm doing my best, and with what I have right now, like it's working, and that's what we can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The intention, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah.
I've actually had that discussion with Nick recently about the fact that you are putting the effort out there to the best of your abilities should be enough to satisfy your like thirst for more. If you are trying,
as long as you're
get,
trying, and you're always searching for better for you because you deserve it and not because you think you need to have it.
Exactly. It's all about being able to fill your own cup by saying, I am working towards something, and you don't have to work yourself into a fucking oblivion. Like, it is so crazy to me that like this whole workaholic thing, especially as millennials, that we have come to adopt as like the grind lifestyle. I don't want to work myself into like the ground. I want to be able to enjoy those little things. I want to have my shows that I can watch. I want to be able to listen to the music that I like. I want to be able to have moments where it's the little things that like bring me joy and that like feed, my inner child and that make me a happier person because I can say I'm working towards being the best version of myself. And I think that's definitely like off of what you said, like that's immediately like where my brain went. And sorry, I didn't mean to stunt your beginning of your your side of it, but
my side of it, of like the coping side, is like so much of what obviously you guys have said. Realistically, there's not that's my honestly same for the episode, is that I 100%.
There was a bunny.
There's
outside.
a bunny. I'm sorry, I got distracted.
There's a bunny outside.
There's a bunny outside.
You can't see the bunny.
I can't see the bunny because I am facing this way.
I'm sorry, Ross. Talk about your life.
Finally, someone let me talk for a second. My thing is like, it is so much of what you guys have already said, of like finding like what you actually just like, what actually makes you happy. And also letting myself identify like something I think a lot of us are bad at is thinking that like once we reach a level of something, that is us forever. And like learning to embrace like what I really want right now, maybe in 6 months might change. Now, obviously, if you're drastically trying to change your life and change things up, thinking like, I think a lot of millennials tend to chase happiness, always thinking it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I think like there's a difference in like identify that you want to change and evolve and like what your wants and needs right now.
Know the why, kind of, yeah.
But if you can revert it back to that why, the intention piece, the purpose piece, the whatever you want to call it, that can kind of be the guiding light of like experiencing life in whatever way you want, and not just like the grass is always greener mentality, like you were saying, B, of like, oh, well, if I went and did this, then life would be better. Or if I had this thing, life would be better. It's like, no. Figure out how to like make life as good as it can be with what you have, where you are with you right now, but embrace the idea and know that you are always going to change and evolve.
Yes.
And that is like where I've really found comfort with that is, like I said, 3 to 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, dude, I don't know if I want to have a fucking kid. Like, I guess it'd be kind of cool, but like, no. And now, like, again, I'm not 100% set on like that or nothing, but I am way more like, oh yeah, no, I know how and why I would want to have a kid,
Yeah.
and what the work.
Yes.
I'm ready for the work, even though I know if there's ever a day where I have a kid, I'm gonna be like, I wish I could just stay up until 3 a.m. and eat Chipotle.
Oh, you'll be up until 3 in the morning.
Well, yeah, doing something different. But like, I'm sure I will be missing these days vastly, right? But because I'm aware of how my wants and needs can change and evolve, and I'm willing to grow with
Yeah.
those things, I learn how to reshape what's around me to better suit those wants and needs.
And what's important changes.
Exactly.
Because
And-
those things become like the things you used to love. My cousin literally said this to me yesterday. The things that you love so much right now and that you're like, I have to be able to do this thing every day. As soon as some big life-changing event like that happens where you have a kid or you change your career path or something, those things literally fall into the background so far that you're like, oh yeah, I used to do that and I just don't even have the desire for it anymore.
Yeah. And see, my thing is like understanding, having a really large clarity on like, what really do I like? What do I dislike? And if there is that time where I want to just like, oh, I don't really need that thing anymore. I
Yeah.
got all I needed out of it. Being comfortable with saying, okay, cool. I guess I'm changing and evolving, and I'm going to see wherever this takes me. Like I said earlier, if everything changed and I had to be a gym teacher next week, I'd be like, cool, how do I be like the best gym teacher I can be? Like,
Cotton
what
Eye
do we
Joe.
do? Like, Cotton Eye Joe.
You didn't do that in gym class?
You learned the line dances or whatever?
You're from
I'm
Crooksville?
from Crooksville, and I don't remember doing the Cotton Eye Joe.
That must
The
be a
dance?
repressed memory.
Yeah, we played dodgeball and stuff.
we were normal. No, we had before 6th grade camp, we learned a bunch of line dances so that when we got to 6th grade camp, we knew all of them. It was like the
What?
electric slide,
Yeah.
Cotton Eye Joe, and now it's like TikTok
Dude,
dances are
what?
everything
We
and
used
everywhere.
to do that thing where you shouldn't have brought up gym teachers, sorry. You know when like the swing dancing where like you hold the girl and like fling her? We were doing that in gym class. Not to Cotton Eye Joe, but like simultaneously within the same gym class. Yeah.
Wow.
Where
I
did he
don't know
come
if we had
from?
that.
Where did he go?
Where did he go?
Where did you come from?
If
How
you've
did-
seen Cotton Eye Joe,
in or around Crooksville, let me know, because apparently he was there and I missed it. Yeah, I can't say anyway. Yeah, if I were to become a gym teacher, I would absolutely implement Cotton Eye Joe Tuesdays. 100%.
Tuesdays.
100%. I would say, gather round, children. It's time to find out where he came from and where he went. But no, the real thing was figuring out like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm changing and evolving. Life is changing and evolving around me. What's the amount that I can control? What do I need from it? What can I give? And cool, this is a new form of me that is learning to be happy. And Leah,
Yeah.
you said something about this earlier, and I think we talked about this last season, most likely. But for me, my coping thing, it comes down to the word fulfillment. It is literally just fulfillment. And understanding that like fulfillment isn't, oh my gosh, I'm famous and I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, this got 1 billion likes. Oh my gosh, I have this, I have that. The fulfillment doesn't come from that. The fulfillment is, how do I feel after I experienced this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's hanging out with somebody, talking with somebody, creating something, posting it online. Cool, it got 25 likes, but was I stoked doing it? And am I happy it is a creation that I made? Yep. Cool. I don't need anything
And
past that.
25 people saw it. So I know that's like we have really diluted likes to just being likes
that's
instead of
yes.
humans behind there.
Imagine
seeing your work?
If you were showing 25 people in a room your thing, and they were all paying attention to your thing and being like, that's dope.
Yeah.
You'd feel pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you would. And so it's like, it's understanding those different levels of fulfillment. And that's how I cope with all of this is like, it's like, cool, I might not get like $1 million one week and all the world fame, but it's like fulfillment to me is now, cool, me, you, and Nick go get noodles and it's rad and it's fun, and then I go home and hang out, or I
Dairy
spend
Queen.
or are we gonna get Dairy Queen or like one of my absolute favorite things, we've talked about this countless times at this point, I fucking love getting to hang out at Brittany's house with her, Zach, and Winry and Ambrose, and just like hang and play all day.
yeah.
I literally, like, that gives me so much joy. And it's not a thing that was like, oh, this made so much business progress, or
Right.
like we did this thing, or
Right.
we even,
Absolutely.
there's
And
no
I
other
think
thing.
a lot of people I think where a lot of people's like lack of having fulfillment comes from is they see you like, if they did the same thing, came over and played with the kids, and they felt that fulfillment or that joy, they would think when they left and they're no longer feeling it, then that was like all for nothing, like it's over. But you're like, okay, that's how I spent my day, and that was a really good day.
Yeah, I'm like, wow,
and you'll ride that high.
Yeah, I'm like, cool, it's adding to my cup. And then cool, what can I do tomorrow that maybe adds to my cup? And every day is not perfect, clearly. There's going to be some days where it's like, oh, we are having a rough one today, but still having that clarity and trust in yourself that it's like, what is even the smallest thing that I can do that makes me feel like I'm not losing in this situation right now? Whether it's chilling and watching one of your favorite movies or getting your favorite food.
The best thing about like a bad day is that we are adults, and you could go, I'm having a really fucking bad day. I'm going to go get my Chipotle, and I'm going to come home and put on a new movie I haven't seen that I've been dying to watch.
Right.
And
exactly.
you can do that.
Yes. That freedom of choice is like, okay, cool. Or like whatever that may be. And so I think that's like wrapping it up into a bow. Like, when I think about like, yes, because 100% these things will run through my head. That's why I wanted to talk about it in this season. It's like, I am facing a lot of those millennial problems where friendships have changed and I don't know how to identify them anymore. And career focuses have even changed. And I'm like, I don't care if I do this thing, but what do I want? It's like, oh, I could live a super normal life tomorrow and be okay. And like, but facing the like, oh, I don't know how to buy a house. I don't have health insurance. I don't even have a partner to have a kid with. So like I'm missing out on like the extra layers of like, I don't even have the love part down. Like identifying all those things that it feels like I should have, but looking at all those things and for sure thinking about them and being bummed as fuck some days that I don't have them, but still being able to pull myself back, look at things in a bigger picture and say, okay, what does life look like in general? There's these voids that might want to be, you want them to be filled. There might be these wounds to stitch up, but ultimately, is life fulfilling in what way? What can we identify that is actually bringing us happiness, or maybe could bring us happiness that we do have control over gaining?
Yeah.
That I feel like is how I try to like look at everything, whether it's on a daily, weekly, whatever basis. Because again, these problems are definitely problems, and they like suck a lot to actively be dealing with right now. But it's looking at those other things of like, okay, the comparison doesn't matter, and what other things actually bring me fulfillment just as me, not from some other like materialistic or like other tangible that I'm like saying is worth more than maybe actually what it is. Like, so I think at the end of the day, it's like, oh, well, your happiness is like the thing that's worth the most.
Your happiness is the worst.
Your happiness is the worst. Get rid of everything. Live off the grid. We're starting a commune, honestly, same cult, and we're going to live off the grid together. That's why I was saying all this. And in our community, I will be the gym teacher.
And he will be teaching Cotton Eye Joe.
We will be learning Cotton Eye Joe.
But you don't know
beautiful.
it.
He's going to learn.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from?
Do you know the
Cotton
dance?
Eye Joe. You can't see it under the table, but you hear my feet? I'm doing it.
So where'd you learn it? It's
not at Crooksville School's
it's
gym class.
suppressed. You learned it in gym.
YouTube. I YouTube it every day.
Lovely.
I watch it every day. Anything big we don't feel like we shared with the people in this episode, or that we wanted to get off our chest?
In general, I think millennials versus, Gen Z, Gen X, baby boomers. I think the main thing that I want to walk away from this episode is that we're really not all that different. I can look at Gen Zers and the things that they do and say and think we were like that. And I can look at people that are older than us, maybe in Gen X, and say, I hope I have that one day. And I think that everybody, can obviously compare themselves to others. It's just going to happen no matter what. And we can look at other generations and just compare as like a whole as much as we want. But yeah, realistically, I think just, that we're really not all that different.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just the world that's different.
I agree. I just say take it day by day, because we're all experiencing this, like trying to figure it out. No one is a real adult. We talked about that in the very first episode of this podcast. We are all just winging it, and we always will be. And sometimes we get really lucky.
And there's no right way about it.
Mm-hmm.
There is one really right thing you could do for us, and that is follow us at honestlysamepod, or make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever platform you checked this out on, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Guys, we're doing a season 2.
We
And
are.
that
Doing
was
it.
episode 1 of season 2. We did it.
Hit
We
that
did-
button.
How do we? Oh, that's how we end these. Brittany, I will let you hit that button.
Goodbye.